Hello, welcome to Discovering the World of Natural Health. I'm your host, Claiborne Holtzman. Your life, your health, your total well-being is very important and should be most important to yourself. Therefore, what is the quality of life that you have? What is the quality of life you want? And what can you do to make changes so you can have the best quality for yourself? As an herbalist and a naturopath and an individual that loves knowing what the original ingredients should be for you and I to have optimal health, what is it that we need to do? What is it that needs to change within our life and our health, and what can we do naturally? I've done quite a bit of preparation for going into this program because I keep getting asked, we keep wanting to know what is it that is keeping America sick. Well, actually not just America, but the world, in what's going on with the pandemic. And then something else pops up. What is it that God would do for us if we were using His formula for wellness? I believe that we go way back. I was looking for, and I'm hoping this is the right video I have that's coming up. Lee, if I put it on, will it show up?
Yeah.
Okay, you're not sure? But one of the things that came up and I was looking at, and some foundational things that we need to help our life and our health. And I searched out some basic foundation that was very important. I talk about something that goes back into the 1960s, that with Linus Pauling and vitamin C. So, he was scoffed at, made fun of, but all along, and we still are not using the vitamin C to our best enhealthment. That's just a word I made up, enhealthment. Our health needs to be in the best it can be. So, what did I come up with? I came up with vitamin C, of course. I came up with quercetin. You may not be as familiar with that as you are a vitamin. Vitamin D, zinc, and I investigated probiotic, lactobacillus, and I checked out another one, the Cerevisiae fermentae. Those are things that are going to work within helping the body to be the best it can be by just some basic foundational things. And these are some things that there's a lot of stuff. I mean, going into stem cell research and seeing what it can do and finding out where it can come from patches and where it can come from herbal foundations for that. It's exciting. And I said, we got to get back to the basics. What is it that you personally need to change in your life so you can have better health? What is it that is tripping your trigger and messing things up because it's overpowering our sense of wellness, and we're continuing to deal with sickness and trying to correct sickness by either doing pharmaceutical medications or surgery? What other things are available for us, and what other things are there for us to be able to use? And just plain long, multivitamins, very important, because we don't get everything we need. I was looking up the vitamin D and I was checking into it, and you know that sunshine can be the answer to your vitamin D. And the skin, with the cholesterol, being able to convert it into something that the body can use. That's where we got to go with this stuff. We got to help us understand, what is it that my body needs, how can it get it, and what are going to be the benefits for me. So we were built from, now think about it, you and I, our foundation, where did we come from? How are we, even if you say, I'm a little tadpole, I was a minnow, turned into a tadpole continued to grow into a frog. I was growing up, still growing up. But the point I was going to make before I rudely interrupted myself was this. We had a long, low area, let's put it that way. And when it would rain a lot, it would fill up, and it would be like a little small pond, It was about 20 foot wide, it was about 40 foot long, and it would come up halfway to the tires on the vehicle if you had to go through there. And for some reason, somehow, tadpoles would end up coming in this little body of water, and you could watch them. You could watch them grow into frogs. How they were tadpole, hind feet came out, front feet, the tail fell off. Instead of swimming, they were hopping. Those are the things I remember about nature and how it happened. Didn't understand the technical aspect of photogenesis and what was happening there. But I do remember it set into play when, well, let me back up a little bit. What happened then, and we had the farm, raised on a small farm, and being out in the country, the doctor was not, and in this particular instant, in North Carolina, when I was growing up, there was a gentleman named Dr. Foster. He was the one that came around, delivered the babies. You could go to his, you had to be partially well to get to his office, because it was on the second floor above the Walker Pharmaceutical drugstore there that made some good little drinks and stuff, fountain drinks, and that was important. So it was there that, and I remember when I still have the scars today. I was trying to repair a lawnmower blade, and the wrench slipped, and this part just dangling. So somebody took us to see Dr. Foster, and he got his needle out and sewed it up, and helped to get the bleeding back stopped, etc. Those things were available naturally. I mean, there were some things that we did growing up. The black salve we had, it was a tub. I'm gonna call it a tub because it was about the size of a small saucer, or a little bit bigger than that, a cake plate. And this black salve was used for everything, everybody, and the animals included. If the cow got cut on barbed wire, you get the black salve out. You go take and wash it out with some kerosene, and you would take that black salve, put it on there, and you would try to make sure it stayed there long enough to control whatever it needed to control, and it would go in and do the healing that needed to be done, that was happening with our body at the time. I say all those things. One, let me just give you a brief. I mean, just a really brief, and I'm going to kind of go through these. Excuse me 1 minute. All right, got my stuff ready. All right, we were talking about vitamin C, we're talking about quercetin, we're talking about vitamin D, okay? And zinc was supposed to be somewhere here. Yes, on the next page, and then the probiotics. Let's just kind of hit the highlights of them. And as the show progresses and we can go back and we can talk about different things, I want you to realize that the body can make the vitamin D. The body can use the foods we eat that are high in vitamin C to be able to help with that. Turn this one over here, and I just want to cover some things with you today. This is just so, I don't want to use the word uncomplicated. How about that? Uncomplicated. So let's talk about vitamin D, which you can manufacture by just getting into sunlight. And what are the benefits of it? What can vitamin D do for us? Oh man, vitamin D fortifies the immune system, helping to protect the body from infections and lessening their severity. It may do this by how? Interfering with the ability of viruses to replicate. Stop them. Law enforcement. We don't need to quit defunding the police of the vitamin D. We need the vitamin D so it can control and make sure it doesn't replicate the viruses that can cause problems. Support and helping to repair cellular linings in the body, including, now this is, you gotta get this. You gotta get this. If you understand this, you'll understand why we approach things the way we do when it comes to natural health. Supporting and helping to repair cellular linings in the body, including lung airways. So with all this stuff and all these masks that are going on, and getting back into something that's been over a year and a half working with, vitamin B needs to be considered in your protocol of staying well and protecting your lungs. Vitamin D, boosting production of proteins that are protective against infection. Okay. First statement I read was ability of viruses to replicate, stopping them in their tracks, helping the airways in the lining, and protect against infection, and helping to prevent the immune system from producing excessive pro-inflammatory compounds in the lung. Another thing for it in the lungs. Vitamin D, folks, your body makes it. And meta-analysis of clinical trials have shown that vitamin D protects against, you ready for this? Respiratory tract infections. In addition, low vitamin D levels are associated with higher rates of many chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and cancer. Annual blood tests can let people know whether they are taking the correct dosage to ensure optimal blood levels of vitamin D. So, vitamin D, something that our body helped manufacture, and I got to get this in about being in the sun. We've gotten away from being in the sun's presence. Big time. And I'm going to spell sun two ways. S-O-N and S-U-N. And we have kicked the Son of God to the curb in letting Him teach us the foundation of the creation His dad had to do. So, do what you want to. How you want to. The choices should be able to be made and not dictated. We should be able to have religious freedom instead of closing the churches down. And using what God has given us as simple as vitamin D. You said, Claiborne, preach it. No. It's the facts. It's the science behind it. And we kind of use things to throw off on people. But you ain't throwing off on God, folks. If you just reject Him, He'll just leave you there and let you figure out how to do it yourself. Oh, man. Guess I was starting to do. But vitamin D, let me go over here and get this. Is a fat-soluble vitamin. Vitamin D is required for absorption and utilization of calcium and phosphorus by the intestinal tract. It is necessary for growth and is especially important for normal growth and development of bones and teeth in children. And what do? We send them to bed with a bottle that has Coca-Cola in it or Pepsi-Cola and let them stay in there and rot their teeth out. And there ain't no vitamin D helping any calcium get it done there. They got to work together. They're buddies. It protects against muscle weakness and is involved in regulation of the heartbeat. Did you know that? That your heartbeat is subject to vitamin D. Got heart problems. Heartbeat gets out of rhythm or whatever. Anybody ever suggested that maybe you need to look into vitamin D and what it can do? It is also important in the prevention and treatment of osteoporosis and hypercalcemia. We're having this osteoporosis. We're having these bones become brittle. We're having people just be walking along and the bone breaks because it thinned out and couldn't stand it anymore. Enhances immunity and is necessary for your thyroid and normal blood clotting. We're still just talking about vitamin D. I haven't even got close to dealing with the other ones that we're going to talk about. The form of vitamin D that we get from food or supplements is not fully active. It requires conversion by the liver. And if we're taking all these medications and we're taking all these drugs that affect our liver, how can it function properly and conversion be the way it's supposed to be? It requires conversion by the liver and then by the kidneys before it becomes fully active. You just can't pop in vitamin D. You may want to pop in D3. Tell you about that. This is why people with liver or kidney disorders are at high risk of osteoporosis. When the skin is exposed to the sun's ultraviolet rays, cholesterol compound in the skin is transformed into a precursor of the vitamin D. Exposing the face and the arms to the sun for 15 minutes 3 times a day. 15 minutes 3 times a week is an effective way to ensure adequate amounts of vitamin D in the body. If you can't get it, come down to Remedy This Naturally and get some D3 and let the body make the changes. Severe deficiency of vitamin D can cause rickets in children and even some similar to that in adults. Lesser degrees of deficiency can be characterized by loss of appetite, a burning sensation in the mouth and throat, diarrhea, insomnia, visual problems, and weight loss. Just because our body is not deficient. Go to your doctor and let him check your vitamin D. See how much you need. And where can we get it from? What are the things that make vitamin D readily available? Okay, sources of vitamin D. If you want to get it in your food, fish liver oils, fatty saltwater fish, dairy products, and eggs all contain vitamin D. It's also found in butter, cod liver oil, dandelion greens, egg yolks, halibut, liver, milk, oatmeal, salmon, sardines, sweet potatoes, tuna, and vegetable oils. Vitamin D is also formed in the body in response to the action of sunlight on the skin. Herbs that contain vitamin D include alfalfa, horsetail, nettle, and parsley. Vitamin D. Love it. Intestinal disorders and liver and gallbladder malfunctions interfere with the absorption of vitamin D. Some cholesterol-lowering drugs, antacid, mineral oils, and steroid hormones like cortisone also interfere with absorption. So, do not take vitamin D without calcium. Toxicity may result from taking amounts over 65,000 international units over a period of years. I like my vitamin D3, okay? It's there, ready to go to work. What do you think about that? Have you ever been told that vitamin D is so important? And why it's important? Very much important to us. I think with this pandemic and people, having to be put on respirators and stuff like that, let's do some prevention and fortify the immune system with vitamin D, help protect the body from infections and lessening severity it may do by interfering with the ability of viruses to replicate, supporting and helping to repair cellular linings in the body, including lung airways, boosting production of proteins that are protective against infection, and helping to prevent immune system from producing excessive pro-inflammatory compounds in the lungs. Meta-analysis of clinical trials have shown that vitamin D protects against respiratory tract infections. In addition, low vitamin D levels are associated with higher rates of many chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and cancer. Annual blood tests can be done to allow people to know whether they are taking the correct dosage to ensure optimal blood levels of vitamin D. Get your physician, your healthcare professional to check your vitamin D. You ought to know from the time we spent right now in being on the show here, and basically I've talked for 25 minutes just on vitamin D, and I have just touched the surface. Vitamin C, and we still don't do the benefit of what we need to do for C. Here, let me hit, as I say, a two-liner, so to speak. Vitamin C helps increase levels of antibody-producing cell, lymphocytes, boost production of infection engulfing neutrophils, and helps natural killer cells active. That's some of just basic vitamin C. And Linus Pauling talked about, and the common cold. And the common cold is the cure for itself. Yes. And, I think that it's important we let's go back here and find my sources. Where did he go? Don't know why I did that. Okay. I tell you what I will do. I will go back. And I will go back to the AB comments. I was looking for vitamin. I had all this stuff highlighted on this other stuff over here. So just give me a moment. This is just, go to the back of the book. Let me look up vitamin. All right. If we're supposed to skip that one and go somewhere else, that's fine too. Oh, excuse me. I'm supposed to see that. Oh, Lord. A little piece of paper must have fell out of that sucker. Oh, here we go. Hiding in the back of the book. TUV. Vitamins. A, B. Got to go one more page, and I'll bet you won't return both of them at the same time. Okay. 18 and 19. Let's go there. Oh, okay. I had it right there. We're talking about vitamin C. We're talking about Linus Pauling. And back in the 60s, folks, we're talking about 60 years ago, because in 1960, 2000, that's 40, and when 2021, 61, 62 years ago, vitamin C, or ascorbic acid, is an antioxidant, listen very carefully, that is required for tissue growth and repair, adrenal gland function, and healthy gums. It also aids in the production of anti-stress hormone and interferon, and is needed for the metabolism of folic acid. That's very important. Remember that folic acid made sure you didn't have anemia. Tyrosine and phenylalanine. It protects against the harmful effects of pollution, helps to prevent cancer, protects against infection, and enhances immunity. Vitamin C increases the absorption of iron. And if you are a female that is having menstrual cycles and you're losing blood and iron is getting lost, what do you do to help with that? Or make sure that what you've got is being absorbed like it's supposed to be? It also, and then we're going to put a disclaimer on this, may reduce cholesterol levels and high blood pressure, and prevent osteoporosis. Essential in the formation of collagen. Now, collagen is a big thing right now. We can get collagen in gummy bears. You know, we need it on the skin. And you just saw or heard me say earlier, if you were listening, that the cholesterol in the skin comes out and produces vitamin D. And so vitamin C protects against blood clotting and bruising and promotes the healing of wounds and burns. Very important. Just something basic. And, you know, where can we find it at? Where's it at? Where's the vitamin C coming from? New evidence indicates that vitamin C works synergistically with vitamin E. That is, when these vitamins work together, they have a greater effect than when they work separately. It's like a rope. And you got one strand of rope, but then if you had it where it's 3 strands or 5 strands and you interwoven them, then they have more strength, they have more durability. So it's the same thing with vitamin C. Put some vitamin E with it and get a better synergy, in other words, absorption, benefit from what you're taking. That is, when these two vitamins work together, they have a greater effect than they work separately. Vitamin E scavenges for dangerous free radicals in cell membranes, while vitamin C attacks free radicals in biological fluids. These vitamins reinforce and extend each other's antioxidant ability or activity. Because the body cannot manufacture vitamin C, it must be obtained through the diet or in the form of a supplement. Unfortunately, most of the vitamin C consumed in the diet is lost in the urine. When large amounts of vitamin C are required due to stress or serious illnesses, such as cancer, it is more effective to take vitamin C intravenously, under the advisement and supervision of a physician, than it is to high dosage orally. That's something you're going to have to do a little bit more research on it. I was fortunate enough, years past, when we were opening up our health food stores, and doctors here were performing intravenous chelation. And we'd have some people come pick up some vitamins. They do their intravenous chelation, and there's a difference in how the people were, how long they lasted, and how severe aging of the body was lessened just by doing megadoses in the intravenous. Where'd that one go? So, scurvy is a disease caused by vitamin C deficiency. It is characterized by poor wound healing, soft and spongy bleeding gums, edema, extreme weakness, and pinpoint hemorrhages under the skin. Fortunately, this condition is rare in the West. More common are signs of less dangerous deficiency, including gums that bleed when brushed, increased susceptibility to infections, especially colds and bronchial infection, joint pain, lack of energy, poor digestion, prolonged healing time, and a tendency to bruise easy, and tooth loss. Now, those are some things that are affecting some people that are listening to my voice. I know that. So what can you do? You can get some ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C. You can get forms of vitamin C in like berries, citrus fruit, green vegetables. Good sources include asparagus, avocados. Now listen, I'm just talking about a grocery list. Or you can buy supplementation that takes these and put them all in capsules and lets you be able to have these cruciferous vegetables and vitamin C and other things that will help you do that, and quit doing the things that are detrimental and mess up and take away your vitamin C out of your body. Things like alcohol and smoking. Very serious depletions of vitamin C. So if you're not getting ready, because I've got people that really, over the years, have told me, says, I eat my vegetable, and it's usually tomato, lettuce, relish, onion on my hamburger, and that is my vegetable. Seriously. Okay? But if you just happen to think of, and I think I owe you the information, you can do what you want to with it. But I have a responsibility. Since God gave me knowledge and information, and He let me go through things in my life and my family's life that were detrimental and life-threatening, that was turned around by using God's pharmacy. I have a responsibility not to be selfish and keep it to myself, and let you be able to say, this may be something I need to look into. Folks, wealth of knowledge right here. Wealth of knowledge. And there's a lot of crap that's on there. Get the knowledge and the good stuff, and let the stuff get. I will say this, it is not to be ugly, but it's to help you remember something and not forget it. Because if you're shocked enough when I tell you what I'm going to say, then you will be able to keep that knowledge and information, and you will quit making the same mistakes over and over again. And by that I mean, someone asked me a question about some things, and I said, this word crap used to be my go-to word, not so much anymore, but the stuff we run into, the aggravation we run into, and seeing it, looking at it, and then realizing we can flush it is what we need to do. What am I talking about? Through prayer, supplication, let your request be made known, and your Father which is in heaven will see what you need, and He will take care of you. Claiborne paraphrased. Now, so I was getting all these aggravations, these problems, etc. So what did I do? I got me out my legal pad, and I start writing, and then I realized, no, I can't do that. And so I wrote it on toilet paper, because I wanted to do something that was visual, that was help understand. And that visual was write down on the toilet paper all the negative stuff. If it gets to be too much, don't flush it all at one time. Flush a little bit. It's symbolic. Okay? The symbolism is there. I've had people say, they lit it and put it on fire and burned it. But that's not something I recommend, because that's dangerous. And we want to keep the house. But if it's a bunch of crap and we don't need to deal with it anymore, write it on the toilet paper and flush it. because that's what it is. A bunch of crap that needs to get out of our life. That really wasn't that bad, but it's just a matter of helping you understand we've got to put things in a proper perspective to get free. We're doing it to ourselves. Now let's do it to ourselves positively. Okay, vegetables, vitamin C. And I'm just not going to really, these are things that are high in vitamin C. Berries, citrus fruit, green vegetables. Good sources include asparagus, avocados, beet greens, black currant, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cantaloupe, collards, dandelion greens, dulse, grapefruit, kale, lemon, mangoes, mustard greens, onions, oranges, papaya, green peas, sweet peppers, persimmons, pineapple, radishes, rose hips, spinach, strawberries, Swiss chard, tomatoes, turnip greens, and watercress. Herbs that contain vitamin C include. Did I give you enough right there? I'm hoping there's something on there you would like. Okay, let's talk about the herbs. Where'd you go? Vitamin C in alfalfa, burdock, cayenne, chickweed, eyebright, fennel seed, fenugreek, hops, horsetail, kelp, peppermint, mullein, nettle, oat straw, paprika, parsley, pine needle, plantain, raspberry leaf, and red clover. Rose hips, skullcap, violet greens. You can have violets in the house and eat the greens off of them, the flowers too. Yarrow and yellow dock. Now, please take what I'm going to share with you next to help you compensate. I hit on this a little while ago, but now I'm going to come up with it and I'm going to share it with you kind of where it hits. Okay, alcohol, analgesics, antidepressants, anticoagulants, oral contraceptives, and steroids may reduce the levels of vitamin C in your body. Smoking causes a serious depletion of vitamin C. And those of you who are on diabetic medication, check and find out, or a sulfa drug, where it may be, that may not be effective when taking vitamin C. Taking high doses of vitamin C may cause a false negative reading in tests for blood in the stool. So just keep things in perspective. Talk to your healthcare professional. Talk to your nutritionist. It's a good place to go. And ask them what you can do to, based on the medication you're taking, what should you do with that? I don't answer those questions because they're not something that I am licensed in to do. By that I mean, if someone is a nutritionist, it means there's gotten a degree to understand how nutrition works. If they're a medical doctor, whatever it may be, then they talk to you about how treatment is there with medication and drugs, and the pharmacy. You have the pharmacy there as well to work with. Talk about what you're taking, why you're taking it, what can you do from God's kingdom to help you get back into balance, known as homeostasis. That is the key, to work together to find the answer so you can have the best quality of life you can have with the wear and tear that happened years ago that's causing it to be a breakdown in the facilities we live in now. That was very well put. Okay. I think, I'm just taking my time. on the vitamin C, on the vitamin D. Because you know those. You've heard those. You can find something that's in there. Okay, let's talk about for maximum effectiveness, supplemental vitamin C should be taken in divided doses twice daily. Esterified vitamin C, called Ester C, is a remarkably profound form of vitamin C, especially for those suffering from chronic illnesses such as cancer and AIDS. Back in the 60s, we were talking about when Linus Pauling was going on, AIDS was a big thing. Why is that not being talked about anymore? Why is it that people are still dealing with this? Have we found a cure? I don't know. It is created by having vitamin C react with necessary minerals such as calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, or zinc. This results in a form of vitamin that is non-acidic and that contains vitamin C metabolics identical to those produced by the body. Fortified vitamin C enters the bloodstream and tissues 4 times faster than standard vitamin C, moves into the blood cells more effectively, and also stays in the body tissues longer. The levels of vitamin C in white blood cells achieved by taking esterified vitamin C are 4 times higher than those achieved with standard vitamin C. Furthermore, only 1/3 as much is lost through excretion in the urine. So, I want to do something. The other thing I like vitamin C and also like the garlic as well. Need to give you caution. If aspirin and standard vitamin C, ascorbic acid, are taken together in large doses, stomach irritation can occur, possibly leading to ulcers. If you take aspirin regularly, use an esterified form of vitamin C. If you're pregnant, do not take more than 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily. Infants may become dependent on this supplement and develop scurvy when deprived of the custom megadoses after birth. Avoid using chewable vitamin C supplements as they can damage tooth enamel. So, good stuff, bad stuff. Stuff just for you and me. I'm not going to get into the other ones. I just hit on vitamin C, vitamin D. I think it's very important to put in that protocol quercetin, also zinc, and with the probiotics that will give you the best results. We'll talk more about that. Maybe we can do it on the next show and get into the probiotics. Very important. And let me see what else I missed out. Most of you don't know, and I can't get into with the amount of time, but let's just put it this way. I'll tell you this much. May want to look into it a little bit more, but research has shown that the plant flavonoid quercetin can support a prompt immune response to common colds and other upper respiratory tract infections. These studies found that adults taking quercetin were less likely to develop those illnesses. One study found that only 5% of people taking quercetin got sick during a 2-week period after 3 days of intense workouts, while 45% of those taking a placebo developed colds. So Quercetin also works against bacterial infections, ulcers, cancer, inflammatory conditions. So that's what's important for us to be able to do. Let me share with you, just to talk for a second. Well, actually, about 5 minutes. I've gotten some good feedback by being specific and talking about specific things, and then spending time like I have on the vitamin D and the vitamin C. People say they hear about it, but they don't know about it. They don't understand why, what makes it work, why it's important, and what are the harmful side effects of it. I believe it's critical for us to know as much knowledge as we can about what we're putting into the body we're living in. And that, folks, we're having a major crisis in what's going into our body through our eyes, through our brain, through our learning and not learning. We've got to get to the point, and this is where my belief is. This may be where you and I differ, or it could be a rallying point for the both of us. I believe the foundation of this body and the health of this body are going to be in going back to Genesis and going back into the foundation of what was there for Adam and Eve to be able to live off of in the perfect entity. Also go back even after they were kicked out. Look at what was said to do, what was unclean, and what was clean in the Old Testament. There's the Levitical laws that just go and say, do this, don't do this. Why? Because Adam and Eve were in a perfect environment. They got kicked out, and then the children start coming, and they don't have no idea of what perfection is. They had no idea of what was given to their parents, and the parents screwed it up. And then they had to come along and face the consequences of an imperfect society. But God felt sorry as well for the people that were there and who he wanted to smile upon. And so God says, I will give you these laws, just like he did the 10 Commandments. But he also did the commandments on what you shall eat, what you shall not drink. And folks, if you want to go back, yes, we are eating the things that have clove feet. We're eating things that are not recommended in the scripture. And God tells us plain long not to do it. And but we have a tendency to say, well, we can do these things now because a certain time lapsed, certain things happened, and it's okay. We're clean by the blood of Jesus, and nothing will harm us. Folks, this is a heck of a way to end the conversation, but think about this. If we were on the proper diet and doing what God gave us, we wouldn't have the sickness we've got. If we were doing what needed to be done on the vitamin D so it could take and build with the calcium, the vitamin D with the calcium, then it could build the bone, and we wouldn't have the osteoporosis. We wouldn't have to have knee replacements and all these different things, because we would be, I wouldn't say it wouldn't exist, but it wouldn't be as often, because the body is making sure it's giving it what it needs or don't need. A little ramble at the end there, but I think you get the idea that we're doing it to ourselves, bottom line. And with that in mind, I want you to know that your life, your health, your total well-being are yours. And Lee, I don't know if I gave you enough time or not, but if you had the commercial, you could play it, let people see about Remedy This Naturally, would be fine. And you can cut me off whenever you need to. But more than this, folks, you're so doggone special. You're loved by the same God that put Adam and Eve in the garden and also put him out of the garden. And so I challenge you to get back into the garden of God the best we can with what we got to work with. Love you guys tremendously. You're sweet, caring, loving people when you put the heart of Jesus in you. All right. I'm out of here, Lee. Take care. God bless.